I'm about to walk you through my complete AI assisted content workflow that you can use for 2026 to save you hours every week while you're still creating content that gets you discovered, builds trust, and showcases why you're different. But here's the twist that nobody's talking about. I'm not just sharing the steps. I want to let you in on the 6 things that you can change about your approach to using AI that's going to let the tool be a better helper. And no, this isn't about creating agents. I spent the summer testing AI models and building tools, including 15 different custom GPTs and Claude projects. I use them myself and I customize them for my clients. And since September, those tools let me drop one YouTube video, a LinkedIn newsletter, a blog, 5 social posts, 3 to 5 shorts, a carousel, and a poll every single week. So while everyone else is just giving you prompts, giving you the fish, I want to teach you to fish by giving you a set of guidelines that's going to make AI work better for you, and then a workflow that's going to let you create content faster. So if you stay to the end, you'll get 2 things from this video. First, my process for creating quality long form and short form content every week. But I'm actually going to give you a shortcut. So instead of 7 steps, it's only going to be 6 steps. And then I'm going to give you a guide to reframing how you approach AI. So when you do use my process or do anything else with AI in your business, you're going to get results that you're proud to post in a fraction of the time. I'm Laura Zalvelson, and this is the Gen Expert Show. I've spent the last 25 years building venture backed companies and award winning brands, and I've taught and tested everything I say here in the classroom, in accelerators, and in my own business. And my goal is to help you fill your pipeline by becoming the go to in your niche without spending weekends on your laptop. So, step one, a brief history of AI. No, just kidding. I'm not going to do that to you. But I do have a metaphor for you. So, when everyone is using the same LLM, large language model, and in this case, it's usually the current flavor of ChatGPT, everyone is using the same prompts. Everyone is kind of fishing from the same bucket. So, they end up catching the same fish. Basically, that's why you see the same content regurgitated over and over again. And I know that's not what you want to do. So AI can be a huge help brainstorming and drafting, but you have to remember that you're the expert. So we can't ask AI to do everything, right? What we want to do is give it better inputs, differentiated inputs, so we get better content out on the other side. So let's start today with how we're going to make our output better, and then we'll hop over to the systems we can use to create content faster. So these are best practices that you can use when you're creating content with AI, but they actually are going to help you get better output from any task you're using with AI, whether that's research or analysis or building a tool, whatever. So the first one is to remember that you're the expert. So if you just give AI a short prompt and then say, go write a 1,000 word article, it's going to go out to the model and pick the best word that has the highest probability of showing up next. That's what it does. And there's a really good chance it's going to put a bunch of stuff in there that doesn't reflect your thinking. It's going to be pretty bland. So that leads me to the next guideline. Go narrow and short with your requests, especially if you're doing something that's long and complex. Instead of asking it to write a whole article, give it just a prompt to just generate the headline or just generate a hook. And once you're happy with that, you can move on to the next part. And this is especially important if you're building something that builds on it on the previous work it's done. Focus it on giving something specific and then give it data and examples that show it how to do that one thing, and you're going to get much better results. The next thing I would recommend is that you actually build simplicity into your prompts. AI has been trained on a ton of writing, but not all of it was good. And then it's also been trained on books, which are beautiful writing, but they weren't meant to be consumed on social media or, in an article. So regularly remind it that you want it to take the simplest route from point A to point B. And that can be whether you're writing an article or if you're asking it to do project planning for you. My next recommendation is that you should always start with an outline. Now, you wouldn't need to do this for social media because that's really short, but for a blog or a newsletter, definitely prompt it to create an outline first. And don't do it just for writing tasks, but for any big task you want it to work on. Agree to the outline of how it's going to do the job first before you ask it to do the thing. This goes back to the first part. You're the expert. You have the context. You know what information it needs to pull to get the job done. Left on its own, it will go amok every single time. Now, connected to that, but important enough to be its own best practice, is build in checkpoints where you can redirect its work along the way. So, one of the biggest time wasters associated with AI is the time you have to spend going back and fixing the errors or redirecting it where it went in the wrong direction. So, for example, let's say you want it to help you with a research project and you want 30 different examples of something. Have it go get you five and make sure that it's pulling the right kind of information first. And that's the information you want before you set it on a task that's going to take it a couple of hours and often bring you garbage back. And then my last recommendation is that you recognize the difference between the phishing holes. I highly recommend you regularly compare and contrast LLMs. I use Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity, and my results literally differ day to day. I don't know, it might have something to do with the load on the system because I've talked to other people and they've had this issue as well. And also, new models are being launched every couple of months and they keep leapfrogging each other. So make sure you're regularly going in and seeing what the newest models can do. Okay, so before we move on to workflow, a quick summary of best practices. Remember, you're the expert, go narrow with the ask, build in simplicity, outline rules, everything, insert checkpoints, and use multiple models. Okay, so now that we've leveled up on how to drive AI, let's look at a workflow you can follow for 2026. So this is the year you finally can stay consistent with your content. So there are 7 steps you can use over and over again anytime you want to do a content sprint. Now, step one, as you might guess, is generate ideas, right? This is where you would try to come up with ideas for each of your content buckets. Now, if you want to borrow my content buckets, I recommend that you create content about your model. That's how your approach to solving problems. You create content around your opinions. These are areas where you stand out from the rest of your niche or you think differently. And then the third area I would create content around is storytelling. So your proof stories or your why story, your origin story. These help you connect and they really help people understand that you're human. So remember earlier when I told you that you could skip one of these steps? Well, this is the one. I made a thing called the go to content grid, and it's complete with AI prompts. So all you have to do is pick a topic that falls into one of those 3 content buckets and then drop your information in the blanks in the prompt template. So this is going to get you up and running with content that calls in clients even faster because we just cut out that whole step. And here's a tip just for you who are watching the video. If you use my tools, the prompts have you fill in the blanks with your own information. So save your prompts after you've filled in your own information. Create a document of that. And then later you can upload that to a project in Claude or Gemini, or you can upload it into a custom GPT. And that is going to save you a ton of time going forward because the AI is going to start to have a history of how you work and the kinds of content that you write. So the next step is to create an outline. And this goes along with the guidelines that I shared earlier in the better part of our system, right? So don't start with having it generate the whole article. Start with the outline. So instead of saying write me a blog post or write me a newsletter, say write me an outline for this blog post. And then give it some more context. Tell it a few big topics you want it to include. Get most of the back and forth with the AI and what it's going to write, get it all over with in this outline phase. Think of it as kind of the design phase for your product, which is going to be this article or blog post. The next step is to create the packaging of your article. So handle the hook and the headline separately from the writing of the article. So if your content doesn't have good packaging, it's not going to get consumed. So what's the point of doing all the work, right? So the online space is noisy and your content needs compelling hooks and headlines. Now, I personally created a custom GPT to work on mine, and I've seen other people offer them actually on LinkedIn as freebies. So you don't have to create your own. I'm sure you can find one out there. And the other thing is that the current cohort of AI models seem to have a pretty good idea of what a hook and a headline is. So maybe, our reliance on custom tools is going down over time. But anyway, ask it to generate 5 or 10 options for you, both for the headline and for the hook, which is basically the first paragraph. And then you pick the one that suits the article and purpose the best. Then once you're done with that, you can go ahead and create a draft. But remember that that's all it is a draft, because the next step is to go ahead and edit it and finish it in your voice. So I've been creating tons of tools. I've uploaded all kinds of documents about my voice and how I write to ChatGPT and to Claude. The bottom line is you need to be prepared to finish up the last 30% of the article yourself. And actually, you should do that because you want to put your spin on it. You want to put the human words in there. And one way that I test to know that I'm done or that I've, unroboted it enough is I read it out loud. And if while you're reading it, you can't picture yourself saying it to somebody across the table at lunch, you're not done yet. Keep going back, keep rewriting it, keep adding until the article really feels like something that you'd be proud to post. Okay, then just two more quick steps. The first one is once you have a clean copy with a strong hook and headline, go ahead and get that teed up to publish. Now, your ability to schedule ahead is going to depend on whatever the piece of content is, but certainly you can schedule blog posts in advance, LinkedIn articles in advance, YouTube videos in advance, and there's tons of tools for scheduling social media in advance. So, really, what we want to do is get this off your plate so you don't have to think about it going forward and when you get busy. But we're not done yet. The last piece of our workflow is repurpose. So, look, this is one of the most exciting parts of AI or uses of AI. And if you're not doing this, you're really missing out. It makes it so easy to turn something that you've put a lot of hard work into multiple pieces of content that can keep working for you over and over and over again. So turn your article into two or three social media posts. Take your article that was a blog post and turn it into a newsletter that you send your email list. Have the AI create some scripts for you that you can turn into reels or shorts. Have it brainstorm a poll. Okay. Right now, polls are getting tons of attention on LinkedIn. So every time that you put a piece of long form content out there, think about how can I pull this apart and use it 5 to 7 more times in different places so I can meet people where they are and funnel them in to find out about me. So there you have your repeatable content workflow, right? Brainstorm ideas or use my tool and skip that step. Have AI create an outline and negotiate with it about what you're going to say up front. Use a separate prompter tool for your headlines and hooks. Then ask AI to do the draft. Finish it up, make it human, make it yours, and then use tools to schedule it ahead of time. And one last pro tip for you: batch these suckers. Okay, either block out a monthly content sprint or quarterly content sprint, or set aside maybe a time block of 2 hours every single week. Because what you want to do is not you lose a bunch of time tool switching and context switching. And what I recommend is that you just keep a simple spreadsheet or a Notion document to keep track of where each piece of content is in the system. Because the ultimate goal is to build up a content backlog. So you're never scrambling and you never have to let marketing go when you get busy. And then no more spending time in your PJs finishing up your newsletter because you needed to send one out that week. And no, that's never happened to me. Imagine what it'd be like to go onto your blog platform or your newsletter platform and see the next 3 months already scheduled out with juicy content that positions you as the go to in your niche. It's out there working for you, marketing you consistently while you're doing the real work with your clients. AI makes this a real possibility, but you've got to give it what it needs to create the kind of content that builds trust and convert those prospects. You can't just leave it up to its own judgment. And frankly, you can't partner with it either. You're the expert. You need to be in charge. So, if you're stuck getting started because you haven't built out those foundational assets yet that your content can sit on, so your framework and your stories and your opinions, I work one on one with clients to do exactly that. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks, and we build a suite of client getting assets for your business that you can use for years. So, connect with me and DM me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and I'm happy to get you more info on that. Okay. Now, if you're ready to start creating content that actually builds trust, wakes up your dusty referral network, and pulls in clients like a magnet, these two videos are your next step. Watch these next.